It's a Tuesday night, you open your banking app. Not because you need to, just out of the quiet compulsion that develops when money is a low-grade anxiety that never fully goes away. Decent salary, 401k going in, credit card paid off every month. You're doing everything right. And the number on the screen looks almost exactly like it did 3 months ago. Not dramatically worse, just hovering. Your financial life is a lake that gets filled from one end and drained from the other at exactly the same rate. And nobody told you that was a problem because the lake looks full. Then last week, someone from your office quietly stopped showing up. Same company, roughly your salary, maybe a year older, retired at 51. No inheritance, no crypto, just stopped, said she had enough, and you're sitting there thinking, how? That's the thing about the unconventional path. It's invisible until it isn't. This video is about the gap, what creates it, and what it costs to keep following the advice everyone called responsible. My name is Nick, and I've spent way too much time studying why two people can follow the same general life script and end up in completely different financial realities. If you've ever done everything you were supposed to do and still felt like something wasn't adding up, subscribe and hit that like button, because today we are going line by line through the conventional money playbook. And the math on some of this is going to be uncomfortable. I'm not a financial advisor. This isn't financial advice. I'm just someone who finds the numbers genuinely alarming and thinks you should see them too. Let me introduce you to two people. Nina is 32. She did everything she was told. Steady job, bought a house at 28 because her parents told her renting was throwing money away, drives a 2024 Honda Pilot at $687 a month. Has a financial advisor named Greg who calls twice a year to reassure her she's on track. Saves about 10% overall, pays off her travel rewards card every month because that's what financially responsible people do. She's not reckless, she's not ignorant, she has genuinely tried to do the right things. Ian is also 32, almost exactly the same salary as Nina, rents an apartment, drives a 2019 Toyota Camry he bought with cash for $14,000. No financial advisor, invests 35% of his income into 3 index funds he set up in an afternoon and hasn't touched since. His friends think he's weird about money. His mom sends him Zillow listings. He says, "I'm good," and doesn't explain further. From the outside, Nina looks like she's winning. She has the house, the advisor, the rewards points, the car with the lane assist, and panoramic sunroof. 30 years from now, Nina will have approximately $952,000 in net worth, mostly home equity she can't spend without selling, and a 401k that generates about $38,000 a year. On expenses that have grown to $75,000 a year, she'll work until 66. Ian will have approximately $3,163,000. His portfolio will generate $126,500 a year. He'll stop working at 51, same salary, same city, same economy, $2.2 million difference. We're going to build that gap piece by piece. So by the end, you know exactly which parts of the playbook are costing you, how much, and what the alternative actually looks like. The foundation of Nina's plan, and probably yours, is the advice to save 10% of your income. Every financial article repeats it. Your parents repeat it. 10% sounds like a real commitment. It sounds like something a responsible adult does. Here's what 10% actually produces, run through real math. On the median U.S. household income of about $83,000, you're saving roughly $8,300 a year. At 8% returns over 30 years, that grows to about $1,030,000, which sounds fine until you run the retirement calculation. Under the standard 4% withdrawal rule, $1 million generates $41,000 a year. The average American household spends $77,000 a year. You're running a $36,000 annual shortfall every year of retirement. And that's if you started at 25 and never missed a contribution. The American personal savings rate right now is 4%. It's not 10%, 4. The median American isn't hitting the target that wasn't enough to begin with. We're saving for retirement the way someone diets by switching from 3 sodas a day to 2.5. Technically progress, categorically insufficient. 10% sounds like a plan until you see what it produces. Then it sounds like a polite way to be broke at 70. Here's what Ian does instead. He saves 35%. Not because he earns dramatically more than Nina, because he decided early on what his actual goal was: financial independence, not just financial stability, and built his spending around that goal. Rather than letting his spending determine what was left to save, that's a different mental sequence, and over 30 years, it produces a completely different number. A 50% savings rate reaches financial independence in about 17 years. A 10% savings rate reaches it in 51. That's the distance between retiring at 45 and dying at your desk. Same income, completely different relationship with what the money is for. This is the one that doesn't get talked about proportionally to the damage it actually does. The average new car payment right now is $767 a month. Not a luxury car, not a sports car, the average, a regular car for a regular person. Nina's $687 a month is slightly below average, which tells you something about where reasonable has drifted. Nearly 1 in 5 buyers now takes a loan that stretches to 84 months, 7 years. They're financing a depreciating asset for 7 years because that's the only way the monthly payment feels survivable. And here's how the dealership makes that happen. They ask you what monthly payment you're comfortable with. The moment you answer that question, you've stopped thinking about the price of the car and started thinking about a number they chose for you. That question is not customer service, it's a magic trick. Nina's $45,000 Honda loses about 20% of its value the day she drives it off the lot. By year 5, it's worth maybe $18,000. She still owes $22,000. She is, in the industry's careful language, upside down, paying on something worth less than she owes. Her options are keep paying, or roll the negative equity into the next loan and restart the clock. Most people roll it over. Then they do it again. It's not a car purchase. It's a subscription to permanent debt, and the product loses value every month. Here's the number that should actually change how you see this. $700 a month invested in an S&P 500 index fund at historical average returns over 30 years becomes approximately $1.58 million. $1.58 million from the car payment. Not one car, the habit. The rolling cycle of financing, trading in, rolling negative equity, repeat. The dealers love the cycle because it creates customers for life. The math says that costs the average person around $1.5 million in compounding. That's not transportation. That's wealth destruction with heated seats and a panoramic sunroof. Ian bought a used Camry for $14,000 cash. His friends thought it was a strange choice for someone with a good salary. They were calculating the wrong thing. Okay, and we've covered the savings rate and the car. But the next one is the one that tends to genuinely surprise people because it's something you've probably been told is the responsible adult thing to do. When you see the actual numbers on it, you're going to have a reaction. Nina bought her house at 28 because her parents told her renting was throwing money away. This is the most durable piece of financial advice in America. It sounds like something your grandparents figured out long before you did. It is also, in many markets in 2026, mathematically wrong. Across the 100 largest US metros, buying a home currently costs 57% more per month than renting an equivalent property. In Los Angeles, 118% more. In San Jose, 131% more. That's not a market quirk. That's what happens when home prices reach 5 times the median household income, up from 3.5 times a generation ago. And the math that made homeownership obviously correct for your parents doesn't apply to your housing market. They just forgot to update the advice. But you're building equity. Yes. Robert Shiller, who won a Nobel Prize studying asset prices, tracked real home appreciation across 130 years of US data. After inflation, homes appreciate about 1% per year. 1%. The S&P 500 has returned roughly 7% per year in real terms over the same period. When Nina's parents told her to buy instead of investing the difference, they were recommending the asset with the worse historical return, the higher monthly cost, and the hidden expenses they never mentioned. Those hidden expenses, property taxes averaging $4,800 a year, insurance, maintenance, 1 to 2% of home value annually, in which on Nina's $380,000 house is $3,800 to $7,600 a year just to prevent deterioration. Transaction costs when she eventually sells 8 to 10% of sale price, gone. And the opportunity cost of the down payment, which is capital sitting in bricks instead of compounding. Renting is throwing money away as a bumper sticker. Bumper stickers don't run calculations. Greg calls Nina twice a year. He's pleasant. He uses words like diversified and well-positioned. He charges 1% of her assets under management, which sounds almost negligible. Here's what 1% costs over a career. On a $500,000 portfolio, growing at 7% annually over 30 years, Greg's 1% fee consumes approximately $934,000 in foregone compounding. Not a fee Nina wrote a check for. Wealth she never accumulated because every dollar that went to Greg didn't compound for Nina. $934,000 for twice yearly phone calls and a quarterly newsletter. But maybe Greg is good, maybe his funds outperform the market and the fee is worth it. According to S&P's Spiva scorecard, 94% of actively managed domestic equity funds underperform a simple index fund over 20 years, 94%. And among funds that made the top quartile in one period, essentially zero remained there 4 years later. The funds rotate in and out of rankings with roughly the consistency of a roulette wheel. Vanguard's total stock market index fund charges 0.03%. Greg's recommended funds average 1% to 1.5% in expenses before his own 1% advisory fee on top. Nina is paying 40 to 50 times more for a product with a 94% historical track record of being worse. That is a remarkable business model. But the entire active fund industry has convinced a country full of intelligent people to pay a premium for statistically inferior results, and done it so elegantly that the customers feel prudent for doing it. Ian has no Greg. He has a Vanguard account, 3 index funds, and a 0.04% expense ratio. He set it up in an afternoon and hasn't thought about it much since. He is currently beating Greg's funds in his sleep. Literally, most of the compounding happens while he's asleep. This is genuinely my favorite one because it's the most elegant trap in the playbook. The pitch is perfect. Use your card for everything, pay it off monthly, collect points, fly business class for free, profit. And if you're the rare person who pays the full balance every single month, the rewards are real. But MIT researchers found that people spend 12 to 18% more when paying by card than by cash. McDonald's found their average card transaction was $7 versus $4.50 in cash. Same menu, same customer, different payment method. The physical act of handing over money creates what psychologists call the pain of paying. Cards eliminate that pain entirely, and without the friction, spending quietly goes up. So your card gives you 1.5% cash back on purchases you increased by 15% because you stopped feeling the money leave. Congratulations, you've optimized yourself into a more efficient consumer on behalf of Visa. You're not hacking the reward system. The reward system is hacking you. For the 47% of cardholders who carry a balance, the average APR is almost 21%. On the average balance of $6,500, minimum payments turn that debt into a compounding machine that works entirely in the bank's direction. The cash back on your spending amounts to maybe $100 a year. The interest charges amount to thousands. The credit card companies have invested billions in behavioral research to design exactly this outcome. They're very good at what they do. The least you can do is notice it. Here's the thing. Nobody shows you about the unconventional path, what it actually looks like to live it. From the outside, it looks like deprivation, older car, rental apartment, no Greg. And deprivation sounds miserable, so most people don't try it. But here's Ian's actual year. He makes around $72,000 after tax. Your rent is $1,600 a month. The Camry costs him nothing monthly. Every payday, $2,100 goes automatically into his index funds. Roth, IRA, taxable brokerage, 401k before he can touch it. He set this up once. He doesn't think about it. The money disappears before he can spend it, which is exactly the point. What's left? About $2,200 a month. He spends more or less freely. Good dinners, a trip or two a year, a nice apartment in a neighborhood he actually likes. He's not eating rice out of a pot and meditating on the virtue of frugality. He lives a normal, comfortable life. He just structured it so wealth building happens first and lifestyle spending happens with what remains rather than the other way around. When friends ask why he's not buying a house, he says, "The math doesn't work for me right now." When his mom sends Zillow listings, he says, "I'm good," and moves on. He's not smug about it. He's just decided that his Tuesday night banking app check shouldn't be a source of low-grade dread. And right now, it isn't. Here's the part that explains everything else. Why do smart people follow a playbook the math says doesn't work? Neuroscientists have found that going against social norms activates the same neural pathways associated with physical pain. Not metaphorical discomfort, measurable neural level pain response. So when everyone Nina knows is buying houses and financing SUVs and hiring Greg, and she considers not doing those things, her brain physically pushes back. The friction isn't just social awkwardness, it's biology. And then there's the visibility problem. You can see your neighbor's car in the driveway, you cannot see their brokerage balance. You can see your coworker's kitchen renovation. You cannot see their credit card debt. Everything you observe about other people's finances is biased toward what they spend. Visible, physical, photographable, and blind to what they're quietly building or destroying. Researchers in the Netherlands found that when someone in a neighborhood won a luxury car, their neighbor's vehicle spending increased measurably within the year. We compete with what we can see. What we can see is consumption, not savings. This is the invisible architecture of normal. Nobody designed it deliberately. It's just what happens when social comparison operates on the visible 10% of people's financial lives. And here's the part that should make you genuinely uncomfortable. The playbook wasn't written neutrally. The bank profits when Nina buys. The dealer profits when she finances. Greg profits from her assets. The credit card company profits from her spending. Nobody in that chain profits when she drives a paid-off Camry, rents strategically, buys index funds at 0.04%, and doesn't call anyone. The conventional money playbook is not a public service. It's a business model, like for everyone selling the pieces of it. The unconventional path isn't risky, it just looks risky from the outside. The path Nina is on, ending at 66 with a $38,000 a year retirement income against $75,000 in expenses, that's the one with real risk. Most people just have the risk profiles of these two choices exactly backwards. Let's close the loop. Both 32, both earning around $60,000 when they started, same city, same economy. Nina followed the playbook, saved 10%, paid Greg 1%, AUM in funds averaging another 1% in fees. They financed a new car every 5 or 6 years at around $650 a month. Bought at 28, stretched to the top of her budget. At 55, Nina has approximately $952,000 in net worth, mostly illiquid home equity. Her 401k generates about $38,000 a year. Her expenses have grown to $75,000. She'll work until 66. She is not in crisis. She's not a cautionary tale in any obvious sense. She just doesn't have freedom. She has a job she needs. Ian ignored the playbook, saved 35%, bought index funds at 0.04%, used cars, paid cash, rented until the math said buying made sense, made choices that looked strange and required no real sacrifice other than tolerating his mom's Zillow messages. At 55, Ian has approximately $3,163,000. His portfolio generates around $126,500 a year. He stopped working at 51, not because he won anything, because compounding is patient and doesn't care about social norms, and he let it run for 30 years without interrupting it. $2.2 million, same salary. That is the price of the playbook. The conventional money advice you've been following wasn't designed to fail you. Most of it was built for a different economy. Homes at 3 times your income instead of 5, a 10% savings rate that actually produced a livable retirement, pensions that covered the gap. That world existed. The advice made sense for it. But that world is gone and the advice hasn't kept up. The median 401k balance for Americans aged 55 to 64 is $95,642. That generates about $3,800 a year. The average household spends $77,000. That $73,000 annual gap every year in retirement is where decades of doing everything right by conventional standards actually lands. The decisions that built this gap didn't announce themselves as consequential. They were the $687 monthly payment that felt reasonable, the advisor fee that sounded almost negligible, the house bought at 28 because not buying felt irresponsible, the 10% savings rate that sounded committed. None of those felt like big choices. Compounded across 30 years, they added up to $2.2 million. Here's what Greg's quarterly newsletter will never tell you. The person driving the paid-off Camry isn't taking a risk. The person with the $767 car payment, the stretched mortgage, the 4% savings rate, and the actively managed fund portfolio, that's the gamble. It's just a gamble that looks too normal to feel dangerous. Nina isn't reckless. She's just following a script written by people who get paid when she does. Ian isn't depriving himself. He's just the one whose Tuesday nights are quiet. The only question that matters now is which Tuesday night you want.